Salutations friends, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. My name is Eveline, and today it is time officially to celebrate halfway to Halloween. Halloween is only 6 months away at this point. That is only half a year. This is a very long time and also a very short amount of time. But that means that it's time to start celebrating. For all of you people who are out there who are like, it's only April, why are we doing Halloween? Shh, this is not the video for you. I have other videos that are not Halloween themed that you can go watch. Or you can stay and see my methods for paper mache. I am happy to announce that this is only the beginning of the spooky content for this channel. I've decided to implement a schedule in which on the last Friday of every month henceforth, we will be doing a spooky or Halloween themed DIY or craft or sewing project. Today we're going to be going all the way back to September of 2021 and pulling a video from the vault. Last fall I had a need for a jewelry stand or jewelry holder, and instead of buying one like a normal person, I was like, but what if I make one? And what if I make it super creepy? So I decided to get my hands dirty in some paper mache and construct this dark, sort of demonic, gothic-y, spooky, creepy creature to just douse in my necklaces and jewels. This was quite the process. It took me a few days to construct, between like the layers and construction and all of the waiting for things to dry, but I made it entirely out of recycled materials and materials that I already owned, so it was free, and free is the best, even if it means that you're putting in a bunch more man hours to create something that you could just spend like 40 bucks on. Anyway, let's get into this. So I started by using some scrap wood and a jigsaw to cut out the main structure, the bones, if you will. I just sort of drew it out onto the wood and cut it out by eye. I knew that I wanted him to have like a really long sort of twisted neck as well as some really intense shoulders, so that's what I went for. I just attached everything by drilling some holes into each piece and attaching everything with some extra screws that I had hanging around. I am no expert in wooden construction, I just kind of figure it out as I go, and none of this is really going to be seen by the end of this, so as long as it's sturdy and it's not going to tip over or fall apart, to me it really didn't matter how janky it looked on the inside, honestly. I then cut out the bottom of the top jaw of my little skull that I used for the head. I just thought that it would make it a little bit more dynamic and it would give me some space to fit a big old tongue up in there. I also cut out a rectangle in the back of the skull so that I could just shove that thing right onto the end of the neck. It was a pretty tight squeeze, and with all of the layers of paper mache that I was going to be adding later, it really just, I didn't need to add any sort of glue or anything to it. And then I spent hours and hours and hours cutting out random shapes out of old Amazon boxes to fill out the neck and chest, and just gluing them into place, taking them off, cutting them again. It was just a lot of random shapes and a lot of random fittings. The neck was mainly just some half circles and ovals that I hot glued on there, and I cut out some curved cardboard strips to make the ribs. Again, all of this structure is going to be covered up in the end, so it really doesn't need to be pretty. I just used some Gorilla Hot Glue to attach everything as I went along. There was a lot of fussing and adjusting to make sure everything fit well and stayed sturdy, and one thing I did do to help the ribs keep their shape as I worked was to tape and glue wire to the back of the cardboard to shape it into those curvy shapes so that they didn't move while I was filling out all of his internal structure. As I went along to help sort of visualize the final shape, I was slowly covering everything in cheap masking tape to act as sort of the first layer of skin. I kind of just kept going back and forth, cardboard, glue, tape, until I had the shape of my monster. I ended up adding some spikes and spiny things all around the neck and the back to give a spot for my necklaces to hold onto, so they didn't just fall down to the bottom of the neck and put a lot of pressure in one place. And at this point in time, I also added the tongue, which was made with the same cardboard and wire method as the ribs, just in a tongue shape, not in a rib shape, obviously. Once I got it to this point, it was time to get my hands dirty. I whipped up some basic paper mache glue using flour, water, and salt, and I tore up hundreds and hundreds of small, teeny tiny strips of newspaper, and I got to work. A tip that I have is to use small, short strips of paper. This is going to prevent a lot of folding and creasing in the newspaper, and it's going to give you a much smoother finished project. It takes a lot longer to cover the surface area, but it is totally worth it to avoid your projects looking like they're paper mache. I think it just is a much nicer finish in the end, and it makes it a lot smoother and a lot easier to paint as well. So that's just my little paper mache tip for y'all. And because I did that layer of tape and I used that method of tearing my paper so small, I only really needed one layer of the newspaper, and my final layer or couple of layers were done using just facial tissue that I pulled apart so it was just single ply, and Mod Podge to really create a skin-like texture. If you've ever done any sort of special effects makeup where you've used latex and tissue, it's the same concept as that, just using Mod Podge on a paper mache product. Using the Mod Podge as well instead of the paper mache glue is also going to help seal all of that in and add an extra layer of protection to the creature. It's also going to avoid a lot of the texture that you tend to get with the sort of grainy, flowery glue. As I went along, I added some veins in various spots just to give some extra creepy details. I did this just by taking tissue, coating it in Mod Podge, and just like twisting it into little sort of snakes and then placing them on the creature. This part was incredibly time consuming and tedious. Since it was the final layer, I wanted it to look as good as I could get it. And then I focused on making the bottom of that jaw look extra creepy. I didn't want it to look like I had just stuck a skull on a neck and called it a day. I wanted this to look like an actual creature with a mouth and a throat. So I spent quite a bit of time filling that area in, adding little tendons and grossness and making sure that the tongue looked right. I also spent time adding veins and skin to the rest of the skull in order to blend that plastic sort of texture of the skull into the texture of the paper mache on the neck and the rest of the monster. And once all that was dry, I coated it in 2 layers of gesso to really help even out the color, and I took it outside to coat it in, I think I ended up doing 3 layers of a matte black outdoor spray paint. I chose to use an outdoor spray paint just so that it would last a lot longer, and I did 3 separate layers, letting them dry thoroughly in between, just so that as it sort of wore and tore over time, you wouldn't be seeing any of that white or newspaper print poking through. At this point, you could go in and add some color to it, but I just fell in love with how the black looked, so I stuck with that. Perhaps in the future, if I get bored with him, I will go back and add some color, but for now, I am really digging just the matte black. And all that was left was to add my jewelry and put him on display. And that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed a look back on one of my favorite sculptures that I've ever done. I just love how unique this guy is, and he actually serves a function. Like, he pulls his weight around here. He's not just taking up space and looking pretty like me. If you want to see more spooky DIYs and more just like Halloween themed content, I have made a playlist, and that will be linked in the description and also in an end card after the video has finished playing. Just a reminder, we will be doing spooky content on this channel and spooky DIYs at the end of every month from here forward until August, when Halloween season officially starts, and I'm just gonna be spooky for 3 months straight. Just for a little sneak peek of next month's video. Ooh, it saw you. Did you see it? Anyway, subscribe for more. I would love to have you. We get cozy and have fun and just do crafts and sewing here. It is It's fun. If you happen to ever make anything from my videos, be sure to tag me on Instagram. That's really the only other platform that I'm on, and I would love to see your creations or your versions of my creations. Like, that would just be so much fun. Also, just to keep with the theme of plugging things at the end of my videos, I do have a podcast that I do with my friend who is also named Eveline. It is called The Babbling Brook with Eveline, and Eveline is a chitty chatty, sort of slumber party-esque conversational podcast. It's really fun. I think it's fun to listen to. I've been told it's fun to listen to. That will also be linked in the description on Spotify and YouTube. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Happy halfway to Halloween. I hope you're celebrating in your own spooky way, maybe by throwing out a spooky throw pillow or some pumpkins, or just making yourself a spooky themed snack or something. Burn a fall candle. Burn a pumpkin spicy candle. Be spooky. Happy Halloween. I love you. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to wash your hands. Goodbye.